Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back for another episode of the Networking RX podcast. I am your host, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, Frank Agin. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing this with others. At any rate, what I talk about on this podcast, we talk about a lot of things, but everything really kind of centers on three words: know, like, and trust. Getting people to know you, getting people to like you, getting people to trust you. And that's really the rock bed, the foundation of professional relationships, of business networking. People do business with those that they know, that they like, and they trust. And this is really a system that has carried forward since the beginning of mankind. We lived in small tribes, villages, clans, however you want to term them. That's who you knew. That was your world. And you generally didn't run into people outside of that. And so there was a system in there of getting to know one another, like one another, and trust one another. And people judged that by their interaction with you, or others judged that by their interaction, and then your reputation might carry. And if you were somebody who didn't work hard, you kind of got a reputation for that, and that carried forward. And if it got too bad, you were out. You were out of the tribe, which was more or less a death sentence because you couldn't survive on your own back in the day. We obviously have civilization now, and you can survive pretty well on your own with Uber Eats and Amazon and you name it. But at any rate, that's a whole nother conversation. But we've kind of carried this forward, and people have, gotten to know, like, and trust one another, and it just goes on and on and on. And small tribes and clans turned into towns and villages and cities. And even in those, as society has advanced, we still have this, getting to know, like, and trust one another. And it's generally been this sort of informal thing. You certainly, people have their reputations and nothing's formal about it. But even more basic than that is that we all have these gut instincts as to how we feel about people, and based on our interactions. And when the saying is "go with your gut," and that's really kind of what that talks about. And when I interact with people, I have a gut sense. I have a gut sense when people come at me on LinkedIn, and I have been wrong both ways. People have pleasantly surprised me, and then there have been others who have horribly disappointed me. And that's just it's not a perfect system, but it's I don't know that there is anything that's a perfect system. So at any rate, with that, I wanted to kind of preface all that, and it certainly has gotten formal in time. We have the credit reporting system in the United States. If you want to get a house or get a credit card, there are three main credit agencies that kind of accumulate data on people, on Americans, United States citizens, as to whether they're credit worthy or not. The higher your score, the more credit worthy you are. And that's, it's a system that we've come to know, like, and trust. It's something we've come to accept and respect as the way it's done. And we play within that system. And if you ever get a chance, look into the history of that system, because it actually started with, in a town, in a city, I think it was New York, where they just had a list of people who were good, who, were credit worthy in terms of they paid their bills or they didn't pay their bills. And then that expanded nationally. And at one point, Congress looked at it and said, well, wait a minute here. Whoa, this is all a huge invasion of privacy. And the people who were kind of behind the credit reporting system said, well, that may be, but look at all these other things we have going, which are also invasions of privacy. And so it's now well accepted that it's an acceptable invasion of privacy. That if I'm going to extend you credit, before I do that, I have the right to say, listen, let me take a look at your credit score. Authorize that and have you sign something. At any rate, so that's the kind of a formalized system. But China, and I want to talk about China, has this social credit system, and it's sort of interesting. I pulled a lot of this off of Wikipedia, so you can go and check it out as well. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to touch on various aspects of it. And I just find it interesting. If you're listening to this, you're in tune to the whole notion of know, like, and trust, and they're really trying to formalize it. We've formalized it here based on credit, whether people pay their bills on time, and it's sort of a very limited system. What China is proposing, really kind of what they have underway, is very expansive. And I'm not in favor of this. I find it interesting. I find it very interesting. And I guess if you're a country of, a couple billion, 9 zeros, that maybe you need something like this. I don't know. Just thought it was interesting. But anyhow, their social credit system is really a national reputation system, and it was developed by the Communist Party. No surprise there. And it started with regional trials in 2009, and then 2014 it became more of a national. There was more of a national pilot, and they had 8 credit scoring firms that were behind this. And so what this social credit initiative calls for is establishment of a unified record systems for not just individuals but businesses and governments, local governments. I'm not exactly sure how China's government system works. Here we have, obviously we have the federal government, we have state, we have county, we have city, municipality. So there's, different aspects here. I'm not exactly how it works there. But it's a reputation system, and it's for the purpose of tracking and evaluating trustworthiness. Now, I'm not exactly sure how it works. They talk about there being a numerical score that they use, and then other things they talk about is that there are really multiple different forms of the social credit system that they're experimenting with. And I'm sure this is terribly complicated. They're trying to make happen. And I'll get into, anytime we hear communism, we kind of bristle at that. But I'll get into some of the things here. And based on your score, you're either blacklisted or whitelisted from various things. And the credit system is related to or closely aligned to China's mass surveillance system. Again, that we kind of bristle at that. Skynet, using facial recognition, big data analysis. Anyhow, what they report in China is, and this is reported as of 2018, restrictions have been placed on citizens, and this was according to state-owned media, and they've had restrictions placed on them based on things that they did. I mean, obviously, in this country, you commit a crime, you go to jail, you go to prison, you're on probation. We have a system if crimes are broken. These aren't necessarily crimes; they're just sort of misdeeds, not being a good citizen of the world. Talks in here about dishonesty and fraudulent financial behavior. Obviously, if it rises to a certain level in this country, you again go to prison, or you have real black marks on your record. So parts of what China is doing is similar to what we have here, but people also get, we'll call them demerits. I don't know what harkening back to Catholic school demerits. They get demerits for playing loud music, eating in rapid transit, so in their public transportation, Violating traffic rules such as jaywalking, red light violations. Here's one that I thought was really interesting: making reservations at a restaurant or a hotel but not showing up. Again, you know, that doesn't rise to a crime in this country. If you own a restaurant and have to deal with that, that is, that's annoying. It's, you know, I don't want to call it theft, but people, restaurant loses money. They turn somebody away because we have a reservation and the person doesn't show. It's really like losing money. Now, they arguably could fill that table if the place is popular enough, but nevertheless. But, with me, if you schedule a call with me and then if you don't show, I can't fill that time. Or if at the last minute you cancel, I can't fill that time. And that's really kind of, we'll call it a demerit. Um, Failing to correctly sort personal waste, putting things in the trash that you shouldn't put in the trash. Again, it's not a crime, but it's something that's sort of a social ill or a social demerit that you get dinged for in the China's social credit system. Fraudulently using other people's public transportation ID card, and again, it's not a crime. Um, it's not something that the average good person would do. And here it happens. No doubt it happens. People are using other people's IDs, but and when you find out somebody's done that, it's your own gut is saying, okay, and I don't know that I can trust this person. But what China's done is they've formalized this and said, you know what, you've done enough of these things. You've failed to show at your hotel or restaurant reservation too many times. You can't use public transportation anymore. Sorry. Um, but they also have a list of behaviors that give you good demerits, positive factors. Donating blood, donating to charity, volunteering for community service. Those are things where you can kind of build up favor, and get whitelisted for certain things. Get whatever that might be. Again, I'm not a proponent of this. I just find it interesting what they're doing. They're basically taking something that we have informally done for eons as humans, and formalizing them. Now, to go on here, it says as of June 2019, according to the National Development and Reform Commission of China, again, I'm pulling this from Wikipedia, 26.8 million air tickets, as well as 5.96 million high-speed rail tickets, had been denied to people who were deemed untrustworthy and that they were on the blacklist. Um, and um, and what does it take to get off the blacklist? It takes 2 to 5 years to be removed from the blacklist. But early removal is possible if the blacklist person has done enough remedies. I would imagine it's donating blood, donating to charity, volunteering. Again, it's almost what they've established here is um, a light criminal justice system, or a dishonest, a non-good citizen justice system. Um, Certain personal information of the blacklisted people is deliberately made accessible to the society and is displayed online as well at some various public venues, such as movie theaters and buses, while some cities have also banned children of untrustworthy residents from attending private schools and even universities. On the other hand, people with high credit ratings, again, this is social credit, may receive rewards such as less waiting time at hospitals and government agencies. Oh, wouldn't that be cool to jump to the front of the line at the DMV, because you did some volunteer work? I think we'd get more people volunteering. Discounts at hotels, greater likelihood of receiving employment offers, and so on. Supporters of the credit system claim that the system helps to regulate social behavior, improve trustworthiness, which includes paying taxes and bills on time, and promote traditional moral values. while critics of the system claim that it oversteps the rule of law and infringes on the rights of residents and organizations, especially the right to reputation, the right to privacy, as well as the right to personal dignity. And the system may be a tool for comprehensive government surveillance and suppression of dissent from the Communist Party. I think there's truth to all of that. And again, I'm not an advocate. I find this very interesting. That they have this system in there, and obviously there's, with any system, with any government, there's the opportunity for abuse, and we can look at this and say, wow, this is really overstepping the Communist Party. And again, that might be true, but we do have a credit system in this country, and we have systems in this country, maybe not quite as formalized, but then our country is different. We have a national government, but then we have all these state governments. And we've seen through COVID how there might be something mandated at the national level or highly suggested at the national level, and not adopted, statewide. And even within states, I'm in the state of Ohio. We saw even when the state of Ohio, you had the state government saying something and local government saying, no way, we're not doing that. And that's a whole other conversation. But I just wanted to share a little bit about the China's social credit system. Again, just something of interest. Again, we do business with, we associate with those we know, like, and trust, and we do have this internal mechanism that is not foolproof. And again, nothing is foolproof, but this is just a way of China trying to formalize it. And I guess if you're a country of 1 billion people, you probably need that done. So anyhow, to wrap up, if you know of a entrepreneur, business owner, or professional that seems to really enjoy networking, they appear well connected. Maybe they're involved with the chamber, or maybe they're involved with a professional networking organization, LATIP, BNI, some of the other organizations out there. Those would be great people for me to meet. I would love to meet those people. As you know, we have a franchise opportunity at AmSpirit Business Connections, and those are good people for us to network through. They know people who would likely be interested in becoming a franchisee in the AmSpirit Business Connection system. So if you know of such a person, connect them to me. Suggest they contact me. Give me their information. The best thing of all is to email them and email me at the same time and just say, you two ought to talk. I'm not terribly pitchy about our franchise opportunity. It's a relationship, not just with me, certainly with the organization, the staff at AmSpirit Business Connections, but all the other franchisees out there. So, we want the right people who really want to be a part of this within our system. So, and we don't have a social credit reporting system within AmSpirit Business Connections. Just FYI. So, anyhow, if you know somebody, connect them to me. I would appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.